Yeah, g'day YouTubers, Spannerman again here with another video. Hope you enjoyed the video today. Please subscribe to the channel. Any comments, thumbs up. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. Yeah, g'day YouTubers, Spannerman again here with another video. Today we're going to talk about full chisel chains, where they're most suitable to use them as opposed to semi-chisel chains. So these videos are for the beginner, so for the beginners out there, let's first talk about a semi-chisel chain, which looks like this. You'll notice on the corner there, it's got a nice rounded edge, and right at the front there where you strike the timber, this is the first part it strikes the timber. This is referred to as the working corner. So that's a semi-chisel. A full chisel has a square corner and a very, very sharp point. So when you hit some timber with this, this will go much blunter quicker, especially if you hit a rock or something, because it's a very, very sharp point. Okay, where do you use a full chisel and where do you use a semi-chisel? Well, I'd say more than 90% of the chains out there being used by people who use chainsaws are a semi-chisel. So where do you use a full chisel? Personally, I only use full chisel. I buy it in a 100-foot roll, and I make sure that it's 25 degrees, because that's the angle I use a full chisel at, and it's a 10 degrees downward tilt. Now, still don't recommend 10 degrees downward tilt, but then again, still don't live in Australia and they're not cutting hardwood. And they used to recommend 10 degrees downward tilt many years ago, back in the 90s. For whatever reason, I'm not 100% sure why they changed it, but I know that if I go out there in the field and I'm cutting iron bark or grey box, I want a full chisel chain. My full chisel chains, as I said, 25 degrees top plate angle. For those that are not too sure on what a top plate angle is, this is a top plate angle here. So this is the 25 degree angle that I will have. And when you do hold a file and you drop it down 10 degrees, what actually happens, and hopefully you can see this, that's sitting level with the tooth. When I drop it down 10 degrees, you'll notice that the metal at the back, the file no longer comes in contact with it. So therefore, when we file, we're going to file the front before this comes level again with the tooth. So we'll file a little bit of the front away, and in some cases you can actually change the angle. It depends on how good you can hold the file. But what you will do is reduce this hook. The hook is referred to this C shape here. So if you've got a fairly standard hook, you'll have a nice little C shape. So if you reduce this hook, you'll have more metal underneath here to support the point. That is the whole idea. You want to support the point. Call it the shelf. This is referred to as the shelf. So if the shelf has got more metal underneath, especially in the working corner, it won't bend, because when you hit some hardwood, this can actually bend. It depends on how bad it is. So we'll show you two examples of a tooth that is standard without hook and a tooth that has 10 degrees downward tilt that has a much less reduced hook. So it is in my opinion, and many other people's opinion, that when you're using a full chisel chain, that you put a 10 degrees downward tilt if you're using a file. If you're using a grinder, like one of these ones over here, this Oregon type, you have a vise that moves forwards and backwards with 10 degrees downward tilt. If you're using I've got a Jolly Evo Tecamec that uses a sliding vise. Goes 15 degrees one way, 15 degrees the other, but you only need to put it on 10 degrees. One of the mistakes people make is that they can't hold the file at 10 degrees. They've got no idea what 10 degrees is. So what I'm going to tell you is a very, very simple method. If you get a little tiny protractor, and on this side here we've got 0, and over this side we've got 10 degrees. So if I sit this on 0 here, raise it up 10 degrees, that is 10 degrees. That's it. That's what your 10 degrees is. Pretty simple, isn't it? So make sure you're not filing up here. Yeah, that's 20 degrees. There's your 10 degrees there. 0 being over here. So if you want to find out what your 10 degrees is, that's all you've got to do. I also do have a digital angle gauge. So you can use that as well. So if I was to put that on here and just zero it, that's at 0 now. I'll just turn the camera around so you can see. And if I tilt that 10 degrees, there you go. That's 10 degrees. Gives you a bit of a rough idea. But look, please use a protractor if you, because what can happen, sometimes you can forget what 10 degrees is. If you do end up filing the chain at 15 degrees, all of that means that it won't have as big a beak. It's not going to do any damage. I wouldn't worry about that too much. If you're a few degrees out, it's not going to make that much difference. But anyway, I'll show you what a chain looks like with hook and without hook. So look at that one there. You see that really good. Now one of those has 10 degrees and one doesn't. Can you pick the one? Well, this one that you're looking at now doesn't have any 10 degrees. And if you notice when you look up right at the point, it's much more pointier than that. I think you can see that. And when I was talking to you before, if you're hitting really hard timber, you can actually bend that. And that's your 25 degrees there. That's your 25, not 30, 25. So 25 degrees here and 10 degrees downward tilt, less hook. And make sure that you use a progressive depth gauge to check your rakers. So out in the field, I like to use full chisel chains because they're much more aggressive. I find out that I spend less time cutting the timber. I cut through the timber twice as fast as other people because other people don't know how to sharpen their chains properly. There's a lot of people, and mind you, don't get me wrong, it's taken me many, many years to get to the point where I can sharpen chains better than what they come off the production line, because when they come off the production line, they can be out quite a bit. There's many, many people that will resharpen a brand new chain, believe me. They still work fine, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they don't work fine, but I can get them much, much sharper than what they come off a production line just by taking a little bit of extra care. I'm generally not a hand filer. I generally use grinders. I've got about 12 grinders. Sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But yeah, I guess I'm addicted to chainsaw grinders and chainsaws in general, so that's my passion. And I really do like using the Tecumseh or Oregon type grinders. You hear a lot of people with a lot of negativity about grinders saying they're bluing metal. A grinder only blues metal because it's the person or the operator that's using it doesn't know how to use it properly. Anyway, that's a different story. I've got plenty of videos on YouTube channel that goes into grinding. And that's the same as the tradesman blaming his tools. Grinders make less mistakes than hand filing. It's the operator that makes all the mistakes, not the machine. And that's the same with hand filing. There are some people out there that are gifted with a hand file, and it's the same as carving. You get people with a chisel, the work they can do is remarkable. So yes, there are people out there that can hand file just as good as a grinder. Most people aren't as good as that. Yeah, that's just the way it is. I'm only an average filer. I'm not exceptional. If I was exceptional, I probably would never use a grinder. So if I use a grinder, I will guarantee you that I don't make mistakes. If I make mistakes, then it's operator error. It's not the grinder. A grinder don't make the mistakes. It's the person using it that makes the mistakes. So to all those people out there that that say bad things about the grinders, you could say the bad thing about any tool being used by anyone. It's all in the hands of the operator, how competent they are in using that tool. So look, just to recap before I go, As I said, I live in Australia. We've got grey box, we've got iron bark. These timbers around 15 on the Janka scale. The Janka scale measures the hardness when the ball is pushed into the timber of about 5 mm or so. Wood's dried to about 12% moisture. And when you've got hard timber, you want the sharpest chain possible. You put a dull chuck into a piece of hardwood, you're not going to cut very good, I can guarantee you that. And that's what I'm trying to emphasize to the people, that if you have hardwood, you could be, look, there's hardwood in many different countries, but generally speaking, I'd say that Australia, that we've got the amount, look, we've got forests full of eucalypts. So what I'm saying, that there's forests overseas that are full of pine or birch or ash or something like that. It is not as hard. Your wood is a lot softer than this. Yes, there are maybe some other countries that have got maple or some other timber, Brazilian something. I think that's actually reasonably hard. I can't remember the exact name, Brazilian something. So hard timber, think about using a full chisel chain with 10 degrees downward tilt at a 25-degree top plate angle. It'll cut through that okay. Look, thanks for watching. Give us a thumbs up. Bye for now.